That's great. That's great.
Hey,
How's the angle?
I don't know. Looks great, man. I can see
All right.
your curtain rods and that red little basket behind you. Looks pretty cute. How are you doing, Franco?
Dude, had better days, to be honest.
That's what we need to start with as I pull up. Well, number one, I was listening to Conquering Dystopia to get me in the mood for our conversation.
I got that vinyl.
Ooh,
I had to order it all the way from fucking Sweden because I missed out when they only did one pressing of it.
you just got it off some Joe Schmo.
I got it off Discogs because I needed to have it. Like, I needed to have it in physical form, and that's the only physical form that they made of it. I'm not like a vinyl snob or anything. My turntable's actually fucked right now. So, there you go.
Are you going to get one of those Robo blocks, or I don't even know what they're called, to be honest. I know that's not the right name. Robo, I think that's a MIDI controller, but those little blocks you just put on the record to go around and play it.
Yeah, does it turn it into like a digital format when it does that, or what?
I think you can, but then again, I don't know. I'm not sold with like the weight as well as the needle, like resting on top of it. But then again, the arm, whatever. First and foremost, because you bought your hands into frame with, what's going on. Can you just tell me the story again and, dive into what happened with your hands recently?
Long story short, motorcycle accident. Really sucked. Tried to be as safe as possible that day. It's the big sayings. It's not a matter of if, but when. So, and that's just referring to a crash or a wipeout or something of that nature. Like, you're going to go down, at least if you're trying at all. So I went down pretty damn hard. And unfortunately, as much as I was thinking about safety and shit, shit happens.
How did you land? Did you land palms first on the ground?
No, I think I hit my shoulder on the ground. So I flew over the handlebars onto the top. So the car didn't have any brake lights. And so I looked up, I see a car 50 feet ahead of me. I'm like, okay, let me get ready to switch lanes in case I decide to switch lanes. I actually wanted to go down about another half block in the lane that I was in. So I look in my mirror really quick just to see what's up, which I had just installed that morning. I looked in the mirror really quick, looked back up, and all of a sudden the car is just like 10 feet in front of me, just at a dead stop with another car in front of them. So, squeezed on my brakes really good, kind of tried to slow down as best as I can. In the 2 seconds I had to react, maybe a second and a half that I had to react. So did that, whacked my hip up against the tank, flew over the handlebars. All the impact just got my hands. So I'm guessing I pulled my thumb back like a bit on both of them. Flew over to the front flip onto the roof of the car. And then I rolled off. And the only thing I could think of was just like, fuck. As soon as I looked up, I'm like, fuck. Kind of like, are you kidding me? Like, God damn it. So, did that, rolled off, hit that, then scrambled over to my bike as quick as I could so that I could hit the kill switch because the tire was still getting ready to go. It was still in first gear. I didn't even get out of first gear. Like, there's no reason on that bike to get out of first gear unless you're on the highway.
So is it claimed as total then?
Pretty much. I mean, I've been waiting 3 weeks for the word from the mechanics. They took their sweet ass time getting to it and actually taking a peek at it, and then they get back to me and they're just like, it's 26 grand worth of damage. Which is a little suspicious, but there's a lot of electronics and bits and bobs on that bike, and that's also why I loved it so much. Like, you couldn't wheelie that thing unless you wanted to wheelie that thing. And it had enough power to wheelie in every single fucking gear. Front wheel was crushed. They said my forks, I honestly, I haven't gotten the damage report yet. They neglected to send it to me because they seem to forget everything. So they're like, yeah, we'll call you back on Friday. Didn't hear from them until Saturday. And the time before that, it was like, yeah, we'll call you. We'll take a peek at it midweek this week. And then I gave them another week, and they're like, yeah, it should be coming up halfway through this next week. So everything just kept on getting pushed back and back and back. But yeah, and I went to the hospital, and everybody was really, really nice, really helpful as far as that's concerned.
So what was the final prognosis as far as your wrist were? Did they just both completely snap?
My wrist is basically you got your scaphoid in the front, and that's typically one of the first things to break. I had some pretty awesome gloves. And they had scaphoid protection. A lot of gloves do come with scaphoid protection. This comes, that weird gel that they have where like if you can push your hand through it and then it acts like a normal liquid, but then if you hit it with a bunch of inertia, it starts to solidify.
Yeah.
So they threw that in the scaphoid area. So what it did was it took all of the impact and then it threw it to the back of my hand somehow. I don't know how, but it's called the trapezoid. So I got 2 fractured trapezoids and then, a few different torn ligaments in different directions to different degrees. My right hand was a little worse on the thumb. This hand was a little worse on the pinky. The pinky was really sore for a while. I still can't really bend my fingers that way too much, but I'm getting like way better. I tried playing some bass the other day. I can't keep my hands off the fucking thing for too long, which is why I've been, just trying to write and stuff.
What did they say about, physical therapy or like how long would it take to recover, et cetera, et cetera?
It's amazing how little information they actually give you in the hospital. Unless you're like all up their ass and stuff about it, or, squeaky wheel gets the grease, really works in hospital. Unfortunately, I am not a very squeaky wheel. So even just getting, they said 6 to 8 weeks. And that I could probably be out of the cast in 3, but I'm getting, this is my second round of cast. So I had one for 3 weeks. And then I got 3 more weeks in this one. And then I think physical therapy after that. I think, just my regular hobbies of, fixing hand occupation, guitars, using, different dexterity muscles, playing video games, that require a lot of dexterity, and then playing my musical instruments will probably get me back in good fighting shape as long as I'm not limp about it. So I've been already kind of playing a bit.
When and why did this obsession start with bikes?
Honestly, I don't know. I always really liked riding my bike as a kid, but I really didn't get the itch for a motorized bike or anything like that until I was at Luther School in Arizona. I bought a little motorized bike for $400, and it was just the most, and it was a little it was a 49cc little engine. You strap it on a bicycle.
Gas and go.
Ideally a female bike because you have more room on the bottom so that you can actually mount an engine to the frame on a female bike. So I got me a little beach cruiser, had it built for me when I got there. I ended up tinkering with it a lot because the thing was just a piece of shit. In the most endearing way. I really, really love it, but it broke down every week. And in Arizona, they got these weird, thorns on everything has thorns. So every 2 or 3 days, I ended up having to change out the inner tube, and I started learning how motors worked and working with the carburetor, even though, and with it being such a simple engine, somebody like me could just, end up figuring it out without any actual mechanical knowledge. I'm pretty mechanically minded.
Yeah.
But I had no knowledge of that. So I just had to figure it out. And there was a lot of freedom. I was just like, I don't have a car here, but I got my bike. Let me just mess with different air fuel mixtures, or not air fuel mixtures as well as oil fuel mixtures, because it was a 2-stroke. So you got to mix oil in with the gas. And then the amount of oil you put in the gas actually can help determine what your top speed is, or how your fuel efficiency can be, and how hot the engine actually runs. And in Arizona, you want it to run a little bit cool. But I got almost 40 miles per hour on that bike at a certain point. So it was just, and when I came back, the girlfriend wanted to go to, what did she want to do? She wanted to get a motorcycle license. So I'm like, yeah, that sounds awesome. Like, I really enjoyed my time on that bike. Sold it before I even left. Didn't really think about it too much. But when I went to school, I was just like, this feels just like I was in Arizona. And I have really great memories of that time without getting too sappy. It was just like, it was a good time. I never went away to college or anything like that, you know? So it was kind of a little bit of that experience along with being just like dirt broke. Like, I was making, I think, $80 every 2 weeks. So I had to make that last in gas and feeding myself and, you know, et cetera. So took care of that. And then we went to classes, and I was just like, this is giving me the same exact feeling that I had back in 2015. Like, this is amazing. Like, I really enjoy the amount of freedom that I have. Like, driving's not a chore. This is just fun. And it makes me want to go in weird places. Like in Arizona, I would go into the aqueducts or around the aqueducts just to see what's going on, explore the city a little bit, and just get lost. And it really helped me with that attitude of wanting to get lost, being okay with getting lost, and knowing that I can find my way back home if I absolutely need to.
For sure.
It gave me an opportunity to help some people that I otherwise would not have helped if I couldn't just hop off of my bike and help somebody. That's actually, I forgot about that story. That was funny. I ended up wheeling a ex bodybuilder about 1 mile in his powered wheelchair that was like out of battery. And I just wheeled him for about 1 mile and heard his life story. But like, that shit just doesn't happen unless you stop to help people.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was cool getting to meet people like that. And I've had those situations as well on the motorcycle. And it's just, I don't know. There's just something about getting lost, man.
I asked you this before, but it's fitting because you just, told us what's going on in your current love and obsession. But I asked you to tell me something great, and you said you're looking just to buy another bike.
Yeah.
So the crash didn't scare you, for lack of a better word. You know what I mean?
No,
You know what I mean? It's keeping the fires going. What are you looking at now?
Be out there right now.
Are you as you mentioned, are you looking to get the exact same thing, waiting to see what's up with the bike and then do all the replacements? Are you going to get something different and then that's a project for down the line kind of thing? Or like, what do you think?
We got a couple different options. All of those are options realistically right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what insurance is going to let me do. I don't know what I'm in for as far as like my shocks are concerned, because those are like electronic forks on that bike. Like I said, everything was electronic. And electronically self-adjusting and all this other shit. It's a fucking bonkers bike. I love it. It's total hooligan bike, but it feeds my soul. I'm a hooligan at heart, I guess, but I'm a very responsible hooligan.
There you
go. Calculated risks. You hop on a bike, it's a fucking calculated risk. You hop in a car, you walk down the street. Shit happens.
You got to choose your battles, as they say.
Yeah, and this is a battle I choose, to be honest. But yeah, I'm looking at a couple different options. Yamaha makes a great naked bike. I love naked bikes. That's the whole thing. Mm-hmm. I don't like the crotch rocket, fully fared sport bikes that put you in a very committed seating position. I want to be relaxed, but I want to have performance at the same time. So if I want to crack the throttle, I want to be able to do my hooligan shit and keep up with all of the other hooligans that I ride with, or just choose not to. Either way, I want to do it, as safely as possible. But they have one more. They have one in the entire, tri-state area. They got one up in Wisconsin right now. I'm looking at that. The stunter lady's selling a Yamaha that I'm kind of interested in getting. And then there's another cruiser that I would like to pick up. So I might be able to go with a Yamaha and get a cruiser. Then I have the best of both worlds. Get the MT-09 or the YZ-09, because it's actually a 17, which is a really fun bike. It's a 3-cylinder. Maintenance is really, really easy and awesome on it, and like a crazy 4-cylinder 1000cc bike. but it's still 900 cc, so it's got plenty of bonkers power if I really wanted to go that direction. But it's kind of like a stuff machine. But I ride a lot. I put 9,000 miles on last year without a hitch. A lot of guys don't do that in 5 years.
Well, you basically just supplemented your car for this since you work kind of close, right? I mean, you take that to work every day, almost every day, right?
I take the bike whenever I can over the car. As long as it's 40 degrees or over, I'm riding.
For sure. What's the model of the bike that you got in the accident with? Because I'll look up the models you just mentioned. So if anyone watches this, I'll try to toss it up on the screen. But again, what was the one that you trashed?
It's ugly. It's ugly and it's beautiful. BMW S1000 single R.
I think I've seen that one before, where it's just like it's literally all your side bags are gone. It's just stripped to nothing. Like it.
Yeah.
I almost want to say I've seen cops use that before, but they're more commonly using the bigger, more side bag ones. You see those more
cops
often.
Use the K series typically, and that's a big engine, but that's a good one. It's a shaft drive. I don't know. Police riders are some of the best riders out there, and it's excellent. I would love to take a patrolman's class for riding, because they get some great exercises, and I love getting educated. As far as the bike's concerned, like I'll take classes all day. I have an advanced class coming up mid-April, and I'm hoping my hands are going to be okay. And I want to take. I was signed up for American Super Camp as well, and that's just dirt bike stuff, and it shows you kind of how to, like, say your back tire is washing out or something. How do you react to your back tire washing out?
Mm-hmm.
Your front comes up. What do you do safely to get it back down if that's what you actually wanted to do? So stuff like that. Like I want to take more advanced classes, track days, learn how to go fast, safely, learn how to properly turn into a corner while using all the road that's available to me.
Well, you said that you might be taking a class depending on the recovery and stuff. So other than tinkering on the bass, like you're not performing or working at all right now then, huh?
No, I'm going to be doing clerical stuff when I go back to work. Next week, I think I'm going to go back. Now I can type, and I have a little bit more movement in this cast, which is really nice. I'm not hurting, off the pain meds, all that good stuff.
Well, it's a great sign that, like, just talking with you right now and seeing how much your fingers are moving, the dexterity in your fingers aren't too slow. I mean, you were sitting here and you were saying, you're having a little bit of problems squeezing these together, which is to be expected. I mean, you're right in the shit, so to say, you know what I mean? But the simple fact that you're moving things around is at least a really, really good sign, especially for, everything that you do musically. Like, that is what you try to do, you know what I mean? So having that dexterity not be obstructed or something, coming from a person who does physical therapy way too much, like, hopefully you can just get kind of oiled back up and back into it, so this part is moving around and can compensate and move to the same degree of where your fingers are at, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm a little worried about the ligaments. Those are some big, hefty little bastards. This much of a weird sentence that may be. Just being able to tap and push down with a lot of force. Like even then, I can feel the strain back there. So I'm realistically wondering how long is it going to take me to get that strength back up, because I got to push down pretty hard on those strings to get the note to speak. As much as, say, like a pluck note, it's hard to get that volume out of a tap note.
Well, when you told me this, when you told me what was going on before we we're speaking here, I was thinking about your playing, and I'm like, to be able to anchor your fretting hand, I think it's something you'll be able to get okay and rebuild the strength that's all pretty much within your thumb and like you said, I can't remember the name. Yeah. Getting that would be okay, but being able to, you're not like a funk player who's resting his thumb the whole time and finger playing, you know what I mean? Like you are going to a few different techniques where your thumb is moving around and placing and bracing at a few different places. So it'll be interesting. Like I said, coming from somebody who does that and has problems with my arm, it'll be an interesting transition, but a really good sign that you know what I mean? Your fingers are moving. Like that's great. When did you first start playing an instrument?
Oh, I must have been 4.
What did you play?
Pops, acoustic guitar. think it was about as tall as me, but I just wanted to, play a little something, something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was awful for I don't know. I think I went to community college when I was 6 for group lessons. They were doing group lessons, beginner group lessons at the community college, and I kept up. First song I ever learned was "Stand by Me," and you can do that one on 2 strings, and it just kind of made sense. And then my parents ended up getting me like a small classical guitar. That one didn't get as much love as it probably should have. Speaking of, I think I have to reglue the bridge on that. Still have it. Got a little bit of a hoarding problem with instruments. But yeah, I got that one, put it down for a long time, started skateboarding eventually, and just way down the line, riding bikes, skateboarding, playing outside with the kids. Like I spent a lot of time outside. Mm-hmm. So once 4th grade rolled around, I was still picking up the guitar every once in a while, but once 4th grade rolled around, I was just in the band, in the school band. I was playing second trumpet, and that helped me enjoy music and just really learn how it can affect my life positively. Instills, good practice schedules, things like that, self-discipline, all the stuff that you get from karate. So eventually got on a practice schedule. Really enjoyed playing second trumpet parts as opposed to the really high first trumpet parts. So I enjoyed complementing other parts, even inside of the big ensemble. It was just way more enjoyable playing something that was a little bit different than everybody else. I felt like I was harmonizing all the time as opposed to taking, that lead role and backing people up. So 5th grade rolled around, picked up a bass. And from there, it's just been a shit show.
Did your dad or mom play, or did they just support what you did? Like, how was it in the house when you were younger?
Not musical house, for the most part. Yeah, my dad can't hold a tune to save his life. My mom, she really enjoys music, but she can't play. My grandfather played did some hand percussion back in Puerto Rico, back in the day, and that's about it. Not very, musical now. I think he did it mostly for the girls and the booze and, just having a good time at the clubs, back in the 60s and shit.
Is this what he told you, or is this like what you assume at, you've put the pieces together?
I assume, and knowing my grandfather.
All right. There you go.
I know that guy used to get a little rowdy. So, yeah, they just supported it. And then, whatever. I had to work for it. I had to buy my first bass. Mm-hmm. They helped me with my first bass for sure. Then, so I got like a Squier starter pack. No, I just got the Squier bass because I needed to keep it cheap. Because I saved up like 3 birthdays worth of money. Money really wasn't a big thing, but like Grandma and Grandpa would give me, $30 between Christmas and my birthday or something like that, and I could scrounge away my pennies for that $100, $120 bass. Thing is sick. That's a great bass.
Do you still own that actual one or no?
Fuck yeah, I do.
You're lucky.
I got it right in the other room.
I own my second guitar. I don't own my first guitar, but I would say I probably put more hours on the second one anyway. But that's awesome that you still have that.
Yeah, dude. No, I recently, not too long ago, maybe a couple years, I chucked about $300 worth of fresh electronics in. I took, it was like, I put in a set of Seymour Duncan quarter pounders. I'm still thinking about routing out for a jazz pickup on it. And then I threw a Bartolini preamp in there. And, 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag.
Yeah.
That bass is awesome. It has it's covered in Mancow stickers and, Nixon, Thrasher, Shorty skateboard stickers. It's ridiculous.
If it's got that feel, like, who cares? You know what I mean? If it does the job.
It's a good bass. Those Chinese affinities were solid. Even the 6-string guitars, but, basses. I almost feel like a bass is a little bit easier to make if you get the meat and potatoes right. It's a little hard to mess up a bass. But what do I know? I just play and fix.
Yeah, and have made, which we should probably, that's a great segue into asking, when did you go to get, I don't know if the correct terminology is certified, but when and where did you get your luthier certificate or certification?
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
I mean, is that what they call it? I don't know if it's a degree. Forgive my ignorance.
No, it's not a degree. No, the only degree I have is in music performance in upright bass, and that's only because I couldn't get one in electric bass. Yeah, I went to Roberto Venn 2015. It doesn't take very long to get certified. You just really have to have a passion for it. Otherwise, it's just, it's like 7 to 5 every day. Very, very enjoyable if you're into it. I would highly recommend it for anybody that's, I don't know, at the time, like after I got my degree in performance, I was just like, I don't want to do this. Like, I love playing with people, but the act of being a jobber or something of that nature is just, it's too political for me. There's too many different interpersonal dynamics that need to be considered. And a lot of people have bad attitudes. Like, we're all a bunch of weirdos, musicians.
Mm-hmm.
So, horn players have their own attitudes, string players have their own attitudes, violinists have their own attitudes. Especially when compared to, say, like an upright bass player or a cellist or even the percussionists. I always thought the percussionists get the most fun job in an orchestral setting, but they have to be very, very good and very, they're kind of like a jack of all trades. It's crazy. You have to be you have to have piano skills, because if you want to play marimba or xylophone, and then you have to have your mallet skills down. There's just so much to it that it seems like a lot of fun for a busybody. I stuck with my bass, pizzicato, and bowed is, I don't need any more than that realistically. But let's see, back Roberto Venn. Yeah, did that, made some great friends, met some awesome people, built 3 guitars, an acoustic, an electric bass, and then I had some extra time to build a Fender 6. I did that with a telly body.
That's like the baritone guitar hybrid thing that you have, right?
Yeah, that thing's awesome. I think I would like to refret that sometime soon.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I've held that before and was just like, this is something special.
It's so weird. I always wanted one. I played one from the 60s when I was trying to buy a case for that thing. I'm like, I just need something that fits. So they're like, yeah, we actually got I think it was a 52. It was a 52 or no, it was a 62. It was a 62 because that was like either the first or the second year that they had made that particular model. And that thing was crazy, very uncomfortable to play, very cumbersome. It has a special place in the musical hierarchy if you're trying to play with it. I don't know exactly what that is, but it's not a rock band. But yeah, did that. And Guitar Center ended up recruiting me from there. Definitely not my first choice of places to work, but none of the custom bass builders over here in Chicago were looking for anybody or could afford anybody at the time. So I'm like, well, I got to take what I can get my feet wet, learned kind of how to run a repair business from there, because Guitar Center was absolutely no help as far as training was concerned or anything like that. I think they're doing a little bit better now, but it's not really the place to learn repairs.
Yeah, that leads me to a question. For those that don't know, you basically headed up the repair department. I don't know, the repair center at Illinois' Highland Park location.
I was just an tech there, one man wrecking crew.
Looking back now, I know it's a great stepping stone, or whatever you want to call it. But is shit show like the proper word to use? I don't know.
It's tough. It depends on who the tech is. I'm not an asshole, so that worked to my advantage. You get all sorts of customers, and if you're patient and you're passionate, you'll be fine, especially with knowledge, especially coming from an educational facility of some sort. Like, it always helps to work under somebody, working for yourself. And I mean, I was taking broken guitars home and fixing them. Like, I could not get enough of guitar repair. Like, I wanted to learn how to do everything, but not everybody's like that. You know, not everybody's a nerd about their job. So it takes a special kind of person, because you got to realize you're caring for somebody else's baby. Like, I took how I felt about my Squire when I was a kid. I never took it to anybody. So like, I had already dabbled in repair and wiring, and I didn't know how to work wood before I went to Roberto Venn. I didn't know everything about wiring, but I was self-taught enough to be able to do, you know, a setup. Couldn't do fret work. Didn't even bother trying. Fortunately, the frets on that were just fine. But some of the wiring and stuff like that, output jacks, and learning a couple things from other people that kind of knew how to solder. My dad has an IT background and laptop repair background and all that sort of stuff. So he taught me how to solder pretty decently until, you know, I passed him up, because a lot of the laptop stuff is like quick connect.
Yeah.
So he taught me his basics that he learned back in the day that they don't teach like dudes like you and me in say like high school. You have to choose those things as electives. They're not necessarily things that are forced upon you. Pretty useful having those shop classes. I wish I took more of them.
Yeah, in my high school, it was definitely an elective. It wasn't a forced. It wasn't part of the curriculum or whatever.
Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah, so I just had to figure it out. I did lose my train of thought. Where was I? Guitar Center. Okay, so I had a lot of stuff to practice on. That was awesome. A lot of crazy people, a lot of goofy people. I had some dude come in with a 70s Ibanez, and he's like, I need you to make sure that you give me, can you find the original pot to this guitar? I'm like, dude, this is not even a CTS or anything from the 70s. I am not going to find a period correct pot for your guitar. How about I replace it with something fresh that works just as well? Because this isn't like, I don't know, a rare or sought after vintage instrument. Sure, it's a vintage instrument, but at that point, you're just making it serviceable again, because I can no longer clean your electronics. Like, the carbon strip on your pot is toast. You know, it's been scratched off or whatever it might be. You get a lot of stuff and a lot of dumb people, a lot of people that look down on you. And then that kind of keeps you humble too. Just work your dick off. And I mean, that's what it was really good, because I learned how to manage customers' expectations, taking in guitars accurately, properly, making sure that estimates are done reasonably, and the customer has an understanding of what I'm going to do, so that I can build that trust and rapport with them. That was very important to me, especially working at Guitar Center. I just really didn't want you to think that I was that schmuck that was working at Guitar Center, that didn't know how to ask for help or would take in work that he couldn't do. If there was a better place for the job, say like reshaping a neck, I'm not going to reshape your neck at Guitar Center. Have I carved necks before? Yes, but I'm not going to do that. That's not what that place is for. Like, give me your guitars for setups, give me your fret levels, give me your refrets, give me your partial refrets, give me your brace reglues, give me your bridge reglues, headstock reglues, you know, and mods. All of that stuff, sure. That's should be well within the scope. Now they're educating while they're on the job, and I don't necessarily think, I mean, the education never stops, but you shouldn't let somebody touch a guitar unless they've done quite a few things before you start taking money from people. And that's pretty easy when you're a company that's focused too much on making money sometimes.
Yeah, so that's probably a good point. This is kind of like an ongoing conversation that we've had for years, so it's probably worth notating a few different things, because first off, I've never worked at Guitar Center. I've gone through the interviewing process a few times, but never really gotten the job. And looking back on it, I'm kind of glad I did, or I didn't get the job, I should say. And when we talk about a company like Guitar Center, there's a lot of different things that we could talk about in regards to them, from the customers that come in, to the business relationships they have with distributors, to how their management works, to CEOs and their bottom dollars, shareholders, etc. But I think what's important to note, and I think what speaks volumes for what you do, is the fact that you aren't, your normal run-of-the-mill tater tot. You do care about these things, and you're also honest with people. And I don't know how to say this. A Guitar Center kind of has a bad rep, and a lot of the salesmen there will, say that sales are their bottom dollar, or the main focus. And don't get me wrong, it definitely is, but that grinds people to a certain degree. And I know that the repair side also was too. Their demands for your ability to do things was also pretty high. But what was maddening is that their expectations were high, but they weren't as supportive to some of those things. And while our friendship and business relationship grew in many ways, while I was working near your location, I mean, I saw the struggles that you went through just from getting a corner in that store to actually just getting an old vintage room to have the actual workspace to actually work. And it's astonishing because a person like you who does build rapport will have people coming back to you, actually bringing in business, maybe even more than the salesman is. I found that it was something that was constantly underappreciated, something you constantly had to fight for, something that I don't know. I saw it to be kind of a shame that, like you said, their bottom line was making money, and it wasn't really focused on the people who were constantly coming back. Which I think that's a huge thing, and I think that they're feeling that like over the years. I mean, that leads me to asking, why Third Coast, which, we can edit this out or do whatever you want, but it leads to the question of, and I could be wrong. I mean, this is just what I remember. These things led to you wanting to go there, wanting to be like, I want to work for a company that's different and appreciates something and takes time into this stuff and really, loves what they do more than the Walmart big box store, and the Walmart big box approach. You know what I mean?
There's the big box approach. I understand where they're coming from as far as like, essentially real estate is money.
It makes sense.
And that space in your store can be considered that real estate as well. But if my dirty room is also your picture room for taking pictures of used gear and you're always in there and I can't do my job, like, dude, just let me get the room right behind me. And then it'll be awesome. I do not want to be on the floor while I'm hearing Sweet Child of Mine fucking 70 times a day. I never want to hear that song again.
It's just weird because you can understand how these companies exist. You can understand why they exist and how they're able to continue. But it just seems odd because you can look at their priorities and it seems overwhelmingly like an overwhelmingly popular opinion that the people who work there and also, buy from there are like, I don't really like what you guys are doing. Like, this doesn't help anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of great people that work there, and a lot of great people that work for them. But at the same time, there's no upward mobility, for one. Not necessarily. Like, if I'm making you money, you're happy. And I was making them a ton of money because you change strings, you do setups and this and that. I was making the money, pretty good, but I was running myself ragged just trying to get there because the pricing structure was weird. The bonus structure was changed a couple different times, which is changed with management hands and things like that. And then the different directors that they decided to go with, like they kicked out and we'll put it like this, all the old directors, 90% of them, they just gave them all the boot at the same time. And these were people that were pretty well respected in the music community, or in the guitar repair community, or that actually knew how to do the repairs that they were asking people to do. There was a respect. They're just like, yes, we don't want to get schmucks in here because we know what schmucks do. I've seen schmucks work, and we don't want you guys to be that. So there was like, I think one big meeting, like a big tech meetup that they did, and I was like, this is good. And then it never happened again, and they got rid of all the people. Still good people there. There are smart people there, but there are a lot of other ones that just have completely different priorities, and the priorities are business as opposed to, making people happy and realizing that you're, one, working on somebody's baby, two, trying to build rapport, three, learning how to do your job better and more efficiently every single day, and don't necessarily want to be better. For that back room now at that place, it's all full of shit. Like they force the guy to, I think, work out on the floor. How much, how bad is how much better could my job be if I could hear your guitar while I'm intonating?
Yeah.
I could hear maybe some sympathetic resonance coming from the strings. And that's where Third Coast comes to play. They used to do all the work for all the guitar centers. They kind of had a parting of ways in a not a way that I personally would consider the best way to do it for somebody that's treated you well for years, but that's, between those two businesses. As far as Third Coast is concerned, I belong there. They are all dudes that are just like me. Obviously, you can get a little burnt out or become a little bit of a curmudgeon for it. Like, oh, I don't know, regluing the headstock on that $99 Squire for $125 really isn't in our best interest or the customer's best interest. So we don't want to do that. And we might complain about it in different ways, but being a Guitar Center helped me be soft about that. Like, hey, I think that there's a better way. Maybe we can order you a new neck. You can get a different fingerboard that you want, maybe different fret material that might agree with your play style a little bit more. I see you're wearing down your first position frets quite a bit. How about we get you some stainless steel frets, because you're not going to go through those nearly as fast. I've seen guys go through stainless steel frets, which boggles the mind, but it's possible. But stuff like that. So it prepped me for the stuff at Third Coast. And Third Coast, I really dialed in. Like, there's, I don't want to say no upward mobility or anything, but we're all on the same page. We're all techs that love to do our job, that all have different levels of expertise in different things. Like, I'm the bass guy. I know how the basses are supposed to play. I know how they're supposed to sound. And if there's somebody that can do an aspect of that better, they would gladly teach me. So you get that nice just brotherhood where we're all asking. I mean, it feels really good when the guy that's been doing it for 30 years comes to you and say, hey man, how do you think this bass plays? That's fucking awesome. Like, there's just a mutual respect. Or, hey, what would you add to this color? I see that there's a little too much, I don't know, it's just a little too much brown and I feel like it needs a little bit more red. And then they'll be like, oh no, it is red. It's in the red hue, but you might actually want to try a little bit of amber, because there's a little bit of, you can maintain that brown, throw in a little bit of reddish hue in there, and then kind of shift it a little farther in that area. See how that works for you. Things that I wouldn't think about myself. Or look at this color. What do you see when you look at this color? Okay, I see red, green, some amber, and then maybe some mission brown. Say it's a little bit of a grayish brown. Throw that in there. Okay, but there's also this in there. And then that would be the secret sauce that I'm missing. There's no recipe for any of this stuff. It's figure it out and build the skills to just be able to succeed. And we all want each other to succeed. I love that place, and I love working for Chris Eby.
Well, it's coming from a place where you got close to zero respect to coming to a place where everyone respects everyone. I mean, that's when you can really make the most magic. You can almost speak in a democratic way, throw things up, not get offended, not have these inner politics or whatever things that are going on, and actually just throw your expertise at the job. But it's funny that you say, the form momentum thing. To my understanding, Third Coast, you're now having your hands on a number of different things that any Guitar Center repair shop or whatever, even a gold store, wouldn't even have. I mean, you're doing painting they're doing full-blown restorations. They do everything there, pretty much, right? I mean...
Yeah, no, we can do everything.
Yeah, so that's got to be pretty nuts. I mean, just for the fact that, like, I don't know, you can kind of dip into some of those other worlds. I know some people have come from the same places you have, but end up in, one facet or another. Some people do really love woodworking, or they see the painting now that they're seeing it happen every day, and they just go right to it. You know what I mean? So it's got to be nice at least having all those at your disposal, because it kind of opens up, I know you kind of want to do it all and have had the experience of doing it all, but it's got to just be nice to be able to, dip your feet into so many different pools instead of being restricted. You know what I mean?
It keeps things from getting stale, for sure.
Absolutely.
Like I'll be painting one day, and then in the same day I'm carving, I don't know, splines on a broken Les Paul neck. Or if do the chill job of cutting the splines. It's just like, I don't want to put the splines in today. I don't want to do very much woodworking, but let me at least hog out parts of this this headstock so that I can then work on it tomorrow.
What was the last piece of gear that came into Third Coast that had everyone stationed go, oh shit, they got up and everyone just kind of like came around?
A clean old guitar, just a good classic guitar. It's just built well, no bells and whistles. It's just a nice specimen of what the craftsmanship was in years before us. That's what we get off on. Like, we'll look at that and be like, good job.
How often are you getting antiques that are treated with respect? Like, are you seeing a lot of dirt come in there, or are you actually like, are you guys seeing some creme de la creme? Because I know you guys do get some, you get the bulk of a lot of work in Chicago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we get a lot of it. We get to see some really nice stuff. The stuff that we really like to see is guitars that have been played. Like where there's not this fake relicking on it.
Yeah,
it's just like real relicking, and it's not abused, but it's used and it's well used. And it's just like, you look at something and it's got a hole in it, get after it, man. Good for you. You're playing your guitar, that's what it's meant to do. I'll speak for myself. I see guitars a little bit less romantically, just a little bit. Like on site, which is like why I play Schecters as my main like gigging instruments. It's just, they are good, solid instruments, and they're pretty to look at most times. But it's not necessarily the aesthetic and more the playability that has kept me around. The aesthetic got me in, and the playability has kept me around. I have 5 Schecter basses. So, and I got a Les Paul. I got an Epiphone Les Paul and a Gibson Les Paul, and then I got a little shredder guitar on top of a couple of other things. But there's just like, when something's made at a really good price point, I'm gonna put this. Let's see. I've had people ask me to ruin stuff multiple times. 1960 S.G. actually had to get refinished twice. That was a fun one. So one of the other guys did the first refin, did a beautiful job getting it back to the original color that it would have been. Period correct. Nice and red. But red's pretty photoreactive. So the red goes away and then it starts to turn more into like a brown over time. So the guy's like, I want this to be like it was when I first got it. Refinned it, did an excellent job. It's too red. Why is it so red? It wasn't like this. So you get stuff like that where it's just like, then I ended up basically refinning it like a brown, like it would have looked after it aged, but it was like nice and shiny because it was fresh nitro. So stuff like that, it was just like, why am I doing this to this poor guitar? Like, just play your guitar, man. But ultimately it is the customer's decision, and if it's not too unreasonable or it's already been compromised of its originality, we'd be less likely to turn down something like that. Or if it's just to keep the instrument playing, just do what it needs to do. For me personally, the more instruments that are out in the world, the better the world is. That's just like the simple way to put it, I guess.
This is still recording, so I think this point is actually worth stating, because your intent isn't to talk shit, but the experience that you had going through Guitar Center that almost propelled you to just walk into Third Coast with open arms is worth notating. And it's not that you want to sit there and be like, oh, this sucks. Like, my intent by asking these questions isn't to showcase the negative sides that you went through with Guitar Center. It's more of the positivity that Third Coast opened up to you and you were like, I'm home. Because I remember vividly talking to you and how bad you felt about what was going on at Guitar Center, but also how happy you felt when you're like, dude, I got in. Working in customer service and like learning how to almost become a salesman, but also build that rapport and understand what's needed, how to go about it, sometimes how to stretch a penny, you know what I mean? Sometimes just all these little tools, they build up. And like I said before, you're not your run-of-the-mill tater tot, man. So it's like, I think other people can see that too.
Guitar Center really did help. in that sense. It taught me how to manage a repair business for the most part, with the exception of doing taxes for them. Like, that's invaluable because now I can understand kind of what my boss has to do. Or if I need to service right up front, which I never have to do, I know exactly what needs to be done.
Yeah, which that's why it goes hand in hand. Like, the intent isn't to try to, be unprofessional or talk negatively about it, but it's an important step for somebody who wants to be in your position, an important step for a lot of people who have worked for Guitar Center and know that that is a stepping stone, that there is good and bad there. You know what I mean? That it's not all black and white. You know what I mean? I think that's an important thing. Like I said, for somebody who's, following in the same steps to some degree,
Fuck yeah.
What's the weather like out there?
Better than yours.
Oh, yeah?
Y'all. At least for today.
Oh, man.
I saw somewhere in that neighborhood, it was like, I don't know, 55 or something like that, mid-50s. We got low 60s today.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What are you listening to these days? Like, what's the last thing you bought or the last thing you streamed, or pull up your YouTube history or something?
Let's see. What? I gave the Aftermath a spin recently again. It was their latest album was pretty decent. It's kind of like Beneath the Massacre Worship.
Okay.
It took me a while to find it. Like, I'm like, it's got a Dead Rat on there, and I'm asking the guys in the band and stuff. I'm just like, hey, what is this? Like, I know you nerds know, and they didn't. Fortunately, I found it on a forum. Somebody was talking about it. I'm like, yes, it was that one. So it was that one. I've been kind of softening it up a little bit. First album by the Once and Future Band. Came across them just by, things you may like or whatever. I was like, fuck, this is good. I don't know what to, it's kind of proggy. A little bit more of a throwback to, like, I don't know, late 70s prog, with some modern influences. That was really good. Highly recommend. Run the Jewels. New Run the Jewels is sick. New Weekend actually has some pretty great tracks on it, which surprised me. I've never listened to the dude, but like that, I was just like, yeah, this is pretty good stuff. I've been trying to take it a little bit easier. I listen to so much crazy shit. So the new Cattle Decap is great. Kind of, I don't know, not really listening to new Desiderium. Very, very excellent, very memorable riffs. And that was pretty cool. A little bit of an underground band there. Still listening to Car Bomb, Dillinger, all that fun stuff when I can.
What's another guilty pleasure that isn't metal?
Oh, I'm gonna have to go on my phone for that.
Okay, you can get back to me. I should also ask, because you do have such a variety in your answer. I'm aware personally that you enjoy a number of different forms of music, and I know that you can perform a number of different, genres and whatnot. But through the years, you've kind of stuck with, I don't know, for lack of an argument and for conversation's sake, technical death metal. And I'm curious why that is.
Side note, Fawn Limbs is on my Now Playing, and Defeated Sanity is on my other Now Playing.
Okay.
Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum. That newer Igor. Holy shit. Yeah, that's been in really, really heavy rotation.
The question is, I'm aware that you enjoy a bunch of different forms of music. you know, the variety in the bands you just listed, you know, kind of speak to that. And I know that you can perform a bunch of different types of music. You play the upright bass, you can bow, you can do a bunch of stuff. But throughout the years, and for conversation's sake, you know, I'll just stick with this genre name and take it for what it's worth. But over the years, you've kind of stuck with technical, progressive death metal or whatever. Why? Why is that? Is there a certain love for metal? Is it necessity? Is it, you know, just what you and your friends have always been into? Why? Why?
That's a good question. Why for anybody? Nobody
Well, I know.
likes it. There's no money in it. No, it's just, it's a lot of fun to play. It lets me do whatever I want. Like, I don't know. I didn't realize how ahead of the times I was without trying to sound like a prick about it. Like listening to Victor Wooten and trying to get his double thumb technique and figuring out how I could use that to keep up with the speed of my guitar players.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all of that stuff. I was just, now everybody's doing double thumb technique. Now that Evan Brewer started, you know, putting that information out there, there are so many great bassists out there in death metal incorporating so many different techniques that I know I don't have I don't want to say a corner on the market because I never really did, but like I don't offer anything technique wise that other people can't do anymore. So it comes with just, I don't know, being as weird as I want to be and just having the freedom to do. And I guess that's what progressive music in general is all about. Is just being able to break it. It's like the core on the back of anything. You know, it allows you to break out of that box. So core is pretty much, I mean, my understanding is it just allows you to incorporate other styles into your playing, and therefore making you more original as a musician, or being able to take, say, like, I don't know, inspiration from Genesis, you know, and throwing that into death metal. It's just like, that sounds great.
Would you say that the technical palette that is presented within metal music gives you the opportunity to kind of have free reign, and that's always been something that's kind of like spoken to you, to be able to kind of take from, you know, whether it's an R&B or a pop or whatever, you're like, I actually like the challenge of infusing it into that. Plus it speaks to me because it is, you know, faster tempos, that, you know, it's more melodic. There's more of the technical side of it, which is, I think, the thing you would say, you know, is the main attraction.
Yeah, it's the main attraction. I mean, it's like going to the gym for an hour. Anytime I play a set with the boys, it's awesome. Like, it's like once you know what you're playing, and I really like the structure of knowing the pieces. I've never been huge into improvising. It's one of my, it's definitely not my strong suits. As far as musicality concerned, it's probably my weakest skill, which is why I wanted to start studying jazz a little bit. You know, figure out, it's just, jazz has so much freedom, but having the stuff written down, being able to do what I want in a calculated manner to make sure that I'm not doing anything too out of pocket, that to the point that it isn't musical, just doesn't sound appealing to me. So some people it does, and dissonant death metal has definitely gone way up. I mean, that new Incentive rack is like, fuck. But that's like avant-garde, like just straight up chaos. Or the new Imperial Triumphant album is, they definitely reined it in for this last album, but like that's stuff that I can't really see myself playing because it's just, there's almost too much freedom. So I like being put in a box a little bit and having my bag of tricks to be able to physically keep up with the musicians while also having fun. And I think that's the big thing for death metal. It's just what sounds good to me and my friends. There's no money to be made either way, so might as well perform music that's enjoyable to me.
You speak to a very interesting point when you say playing with the guys, you know, that get something out. That's a huge, huge thing. You know what I mean? It's I think there might be more to that than more of just the technical aspect, because you yourself, you do have a background with things that do foreshadow discipline. So I can understand how that is like an attractive thing. Like you like extreme forms of music, but you want to play music that sounds like music and isn't just noise, for lack of a better way of saying it. So that discipline and structure does have a nice it's got a selling point to it, and in every band that you have, you guys do bring on that line, but there still is an unbelievable amount of structure that actually does help the songs, give them songs. Like they give the songs a song feel. You know, they give them formality.
Yeah.
You know, they'll have hooks, or they'll have a solo, or they'll have a breakdown or something. Not just for like a better way of saying it, chaos. But that discipline, I can understand a person like yourself how that's attractive, but it's more of, I think, the connection with the guys, because you've been in a number of different bands, but you've played relatively around the same circle of people for a long time, and that's a big thing. Some people might put aside leads and playing other types of music or other endeavors to be like, I want to play with my friends. Like there's something to this. Like what I get out of this isn't about money. It isn't even about recognition or whatever. Like you said, it's a workout, but spending that hour with the guys is unlike anything else. And that tranquility or whatever you get from it is, well, it's euphoric, for lack of a better way of saying it. You know what I mean?
I get to hang with the boys, and we're all doing our favorite thing in the world at the same time. It sounds like a win.
Why did Erjony break up? And what are those members doing today? And for people who don't know, this is where I'm going to splice in a little bit of some of your previous work. There'll probably be like somebody getting thrown in a wrestling ring over here somewhere and you tapping on the bass somewhere. But for those that don't know, Erjony was, I don't want to say a MySpace band, but they were a band that was playing in Chicago. They released CD merchandise, played a bunch of different regional shows and regional tours. But they did make a bunch of noise online that actually did get a bunch of people looking at them. Primarily, I don't want to say stealing their singer away, but there were other bands that took notice to what you guys were doing. But it does lead me to ask, what did happen with that band, and where, what are some of those guys doing to this day?
Well, right now we're all missing it. That's for sure. Drummer's doing his thing. He's just, making money working. Guitarist is doing a little bit more of the same. We don't really work out or anything anymore. He's kind of going through his own journey. I know he misses the band a lot, but we had between me and him, we spent the whole summer writing almost an entire album for that band that never came to fruition. Which had some killer material. Like, man, yeah, I miss those guys. Here's
a question for you. That material that you wrote, did those ever materialize into other songs that people may have heard? And knowing that you write on Guitar Pro, are those still like on some compact Presario somewhere in someone's basement, just like hanging out somewhere?
Somewhere, yeah, they're somewhere. And it was very, very. We recorded two of them. And those are floating. I think they're on like Danny's personal band camp or something like that. We had Metapsychosis was on there, and then we had one without vocals and one with vocals, and I don't know where the one with vocals actually went. I think Danny might still have a hold of that one because we recorded that on his computer. We had to use Superior Drummer. The drummer ended up just not. He ended up quitting. It was just too much. Danny joined Through the Eyes of the Dead, and then that left us in a rut for a little while. Kind of took the steam out of our sails because we were hanging out almost every other day, pretty much, and playing 1 to 2 shows a week. I'd say, like, we played way too many shows. Somebody needed an opening band. We're just like, okay, well, we'll take it and come. We just became what I would call professional openers. So we got real good at just bringing the heat, and that got us in a little bit of trouble in the scene because everybody was out of juice for the other bands. A lot of fun though, good times, good fucking times. But yeah, Danny's still in Through the S, The Dead. They released a couple albums with him. I'm still playing with Danny. He's our vocalist in Roman Ring. We had a little side project going on that, it's our little joke band. It's what did we call it? Franery.
Do we have this online?
Names together.
Can I find this online?
No.
Oh, okay.
We've only played live. I'm actually on drums in that one.
Ooh, fantastic.
Yeah. I'm not the best drummer, but I can blast. I can blast just fine. But we had a lot of fun. Danny was actually on guitar. It was an instrumental project. So we had some fun with that one. He's still my boy. Yeah, see him every now and then when I can actually make it to practice. The pandemic kind of threw a fucking rusty nail in everybody's socks.
If those tracks are accessible, you guys at the bare minimum got to like put out like a MIDI version of them or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe if I can find them. They're on one of my hard drives that I yanked.
So I know I have a physical copy of Survival of the Fittest somewhere, but the only thing that I had accessible was a burned copy in a disc. The physical one has to be in a tote in storage in the garage, but I know I have one of them somewhere around here.
Right on. Yours is probably in the same place mine is, in a tote in the garage.
I know you say there might not be money in metal, but I think that some people may disagree because there is a very big audience. And even though you may think Erjony was just a little, blip in the white noise that was, the MySpace era and, all these other scenes and clicks, like I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of bands from that same time have actually been revisiting a lot of those music, or a lot of that music. And some of those bands are actually coming back now and playing a lot of that stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if you actually put that out there, that you would actually have a couple people doing some Google searches that would be happy to see some of those riffs put out there. Just really anything under that name, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. We would all love to get back to it. Tyson needs to buy a drum set. I don't think he has a place to play right now. He'd love to get behind the set.
Did he sell his gear?
Yeah, he sold his gear.
Damn.
Or put it in storage, one of the two. He's in apartments and whatnot, and he's not currently in a band. So the last band we were in together was the Obelisk. And that one, yeah, they kicked me and Tyson out at the same time.
Wounds EP Light Eater is fantastic. This has to be probably the most technical music you've put out or put your name on. I think I might be wrong. You let me know. You send me something even better. I'll definitely check it out. But
I don't know about most technical, but they're balls to the wall. Those guys.
If people want to watch your performance, you do have a playthrough of Metamorphosis. That's how you pronounce it, right? So I'll link that up here. There's a playthrough that you completely crush it. How was the writing process for you in that band? And I guess that's kind of like a two-part question. Did you write all the parts? Did they write the parts? I know you playing Guitar Pro, or write in Guitar Pro and kind of rehearse with Guitar Pro. How were those long nights and a lot of headaches, or what?
A little bit. No, Rick. They don't like tabbing. So basically, Rick and Nate write all of the music pretty much, and then me and I can't say I don't think I can say his name on here, but me and the vocalist. I forgot what we have him on the album, but it's not his name.
Okay.
Hungus, I don't know. It's like Hungus Malungus or something like that. We come through and then we do our part. I get again free reign. If those guys want something special out of me, or I think that something can be changed in a different way, it'll always be heard. But they don't really miss. They've been writing for a long time. Quick story. I went to go see Gorgasm and they were playing with Gorgasm, and I had never seen Gorgasm before. I hadn't seen them live, and this was kind of like before, like live videos were like really easily accessible. So by the time that they got on, they were direct support, and I was there for Gorgasm. I didn't give a fuck about wounds or whatever. And then they started playing. I'm just like, what the fuck? Did I miss a band? Like, where's the headliner? And are these guys them? Because they were just so fucking clean. And this is just me, fanboying out a little bit, because they kicked my ass the first time I saw them. Like, I was just like, I'm done, fucking done. Like, I want to play with those guys someday. I've been fucking spoiled with that. I'll tell you what. First time I saw Small Town Murder, I'm like, I want to play with those guys. Then that turned into Roman Ring. I wish, I love Jason, but it was truly a pleasure to play with Johannes. Great drummer. Jason's fantastic too. But yeah, so that's my little wound story. But they give me free reign. They tabbed out what they could. I learned what I could by ear. It was a little mishmash of both. I wrote my parts in Guitar Pro, which I feel pretty strongly about. I like hearing my stuff before I commit to learning it. Just as a personal thing, it goes with the freedom of jazz and stuff. Like, I'll just forget what I played, and then I won't be able to document the riff or remember the riff, or the riff will constantly be evolving if I don't have it set in stone. So I need to have it set in stone so that I don't change something on the album that used to sound really, really cool that I just don't do anymore because I don't remember how I did it. But yeah, I just write all my parts, whatever I can, and then learn what I can at practice and the jam. And then for wounds, it's the real trick is getting it all up to speed, because them boys is fast.
In your opinion, what is hands down the worst guitar on the market? And then also the other side of the coin, what is the bargain Betsy guitar? Like, what's the best bang for the buck, the underdog that most people might not know about? And it can be whatever. It could be bass, electric, acoustic, whatever.
Okay, acoustic. Acoustic best bang for the buck is Siegel. Absolutely love them. It's a great price point. They sound awesome, and then they still use their money well enough to throw in a little bit of binding and make it look a little prettier than it needs to be. For electrics, I would say the Ibanez Geo is pretty bad across the line. All of it can be fixed. All of it can be playable. Swap some pickups or whatever. Or if you're not into that, you can make any pickup realistically work if you just dial it in and use a bunch of time. But fret work is going to need to be done on anything in that line, or anything that's imported for the most part. Indonesia is getting way better with the guitar manufacturing, which is great. They're making like leaps and bounds in that direction, just like the Japanese did. Cordova's a great bang for the buck for classicals. As far as basses are concerned, Ibanez Geo, worst. Best bang for the buck, Schecter. I think electric guitars, Schecter too. Ibanez makes some great, there's a lot of good guitars out there, and everybody's making them. The Fender Mexican stuff is good, is very good. But yeah, it's just like how the Japanese did in the 60s. They were just copying Martins. They had no idea why they were doing what they were doing, but eventually they wrapped their heads around it, because it's not a Japanese instrument. So you figure out how the stuff works, and you're like, oh, okay, that's what they're doing. And then you come out with stuff like Takumi. And it's just another fantastic brand that came out of that country. And Japanese craftsmanship is outstanding.
I'm just waiting and wanting you to say that Ovation is the worst acoustic guitar available.
God. Okay. Well, okay. I got a love-hate relationship with Ovation and Applause. Applause They're pretty much dog shit. But Ovation has a patent on a pickup. Their pickups are way different than anybody else's acoustic pickups. That's why the saddle's integrated with the pickup assembly. It actually is the pickup assembly, and they pretty much have a microphonic single coil pickup inside of there. I'd have to look at the diagram to remember how it works, but it is a patented pickup, and their electronics sound amazing. Like they got a great preamp in there, and then the pickup is excellent. You can compare it to the top of the line. Compared to the Taylor ES system.
To K&K, stuff like that.
K&K, I put it right up with those. It's that once you're running electronically, a lot of your tone doesn't necessarily make it through the guitar, and there are different remedies for that. People have started putting transducers in their guitars and stuff like that, and that gives you a little bit more of that nice woody open tone that you get from a microphone that an undersaddle transducer doesn't necessarily, undersaddle, just pickup in general does not, or piezo does not offer. Piezo only registers vibration, whereas the microphone can actually pick up some nice treble frequencies and overtones that would otherwise go by the wayside, because it's not just directly transmitted through the vibration of the strings, which is where like the LR bags, not the lyric.
Yeah, it's an anthem with a lyric or something like that.
The anthem, because the anthem has both elements to it. So it's really nice having both of those, because you have the bass, the really pleasant bass response of the piezo, as well as the undersaddle transducer picking up all those transients. And you get the best of both worlds, mix them up right there in the pre, and you're ready to rock.
I mean, I'm seeing and have been seeing multiple outputs put on acoustic guitars for quite some time now. Though it is quite interesting that we are still seeing so many piezo pickups being still run of the mill. You would think that some company would probably like pick up Ovation by now and just use that technology in a affordable way instead of, I don't know, always going back to that piezo, because it does seem like that blend is the sound that most people's ear are searching for, because they're listening to most people who, you know, they're miking their guitar like that anyway. You know what I mean? As far as some of these virtuistic acoustic players, and you know what I'm talking about, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. And again, I'd have to go back to the Ovation one, but that pickup is very different than any other pickup that's out there. It's like a coil inside of the saddle. It's crazy.
I need to look up this name because I'm going to get this name wrong. And you're being way too nice to Ovation.
Oh no, they suck to work on. I don't want to re-glue a bridge on one. I don't want to do a neck reset on one. I've patched up the back shell on one, and that was a pain in the ass. And then oversprayed to try and get that little texture that they put on the back. It looks like a kid like threw a bunch of spit through a straw at it. But yeah, that sucks. But they're put together with epoxy, so they're not really meant to be taken apart. But the bridges come off all the time.
It's funny, man. Ibanez's some of theirs are the same way. Like you can literally smell the glue inside of the guitar before you can smell wood. It's just, I don't know, it's weird.
Half of those guys, they're also using pretty much super glue to put on the bridges. I can name 3 brands off the bat that just do super glue. Especially with those new Rich Light bridges that Martin's putting on some of their, like, it's not Formica. It might as well be Formica. But the Mexican, forget what they're called, but the Mexican ones where they're all black, that's like a Formica top, and then they use a Rich Light bridge blank on it, and then they put that on with basically thick viscosity CA. And that's how you're supposed to take it off as well, or put it back on once it does come off, but scuff it up, put epoxy on it.
Yeah, if you take it off at that point, you might as well. Here's a question for you that I think your opinion would be extremely valid. Being a person who had so many guitars come across your lap, And down to building them. What do you think of the Fender Acoustasonic guitar?
Is that new Telly one with the sound hole?
Yeah.
Okay, because they had another Acoustasonic before that where it was just like the really thin acoustic.
Mm-hmm.
Also not very good, but I'd like to have one of the old ones just because it's a cool little, coffee table guitar. But
Have you
those are they're a pain in the ass, man. The preamp's massive on those.
have you held one of these Acoustasonics yet or no?
Oh yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't get it. I don't understand what it is. I mean, for having another competitor to Taylor's T5, I understand it. Like, I get it. And I understand the type of player that would play this and needs those choices just as much as I can understand why somebody would want a Variax or whatever other, guitar can give them multiple choices at a click.
You started on those.
But something about that Fender, I've heard multiple people say, oh, it feels really great. The body feels weird. It's got a weird, like, I don't know if it's like a lacquer on it or something, but it's got like a toy feel. It just doesn't, to me, it didn't feel right at all.
It's satin poly, and it's really, really hot right now. Everybody and their mother wants that like oil style finish, that feel without it. Nobody wants shiny guitars right now. Everybody wants to sand down the shiny on their or the gloss on their on the back of their necks because it makes them faster. The satin poly gives you that look while giving you the protection of the poly as well. So I can see why they went that direction. It's not my preferred choice, but I mean, for a lot of things, with the exception of the custom shop, that's what they use is poly.
It's disgusting. I never want to play one again.
Catalyzed, M&M coating.
What's the dumbest question you've ever gotten at Guitar Center? Or how about this? What's the dumbest request you ever got for a repair?
All right, so dumbest question at Guitar Center first would probably be, I think, or do you think it just needs a neck adjustment because my action is too high? People thinking that truss rod is the end all be all of a good setup. Everybody's really focused on the neck, and then they look at the body of the guitar, and the neck's over here, and then they sight it like this. And they're like, see? You don't sight a neck like that. Dumbest. I put a guy broke his Ibanez S series, and he put in the really, really thin ones, really thin Ibanez, the Sabres they used to be called, but they're just really thin, beautiful guitars. They need a special 5-way switch because they're so thin. Anyway, he put in EMGs. He asked me to put in EMGs, routed it out for a whole system. Asked me to put the battery integrated with the black back plate, block off the trem, and put an LED where the trem bar would be so that he could see when his active pickups were on. Routing for a third pickup, or routing a humbucker for the third pickup, modifying a ring so that it looks like a 3 humbucker guitar, but just putting in a piece of pickguard material in the center to block it off, as well as making a pickguard, a stick-on pickguard that would go around his electronics. Ooh. That was pretty dumb. And then I did a Gretsch, turned that from right-handed Gretsch hollow body. Not even any of the, more solid body stuff that's out there. Plugging the controls, swapping it left-handed, redoing the controls, refinning the top, refretting it, and then putting a left-handed Bigsby on it. That was pretty silly.
Wait, was this was it like his father's guitar or?
Nope. I just don't think they made that guitar in a left-handed model, and he really absolutely needed to have that model.
I wonder if that's like the Back to the Future model or something. I can't remember. I actually think he was playing a Gibson in that, but you know what I'm saying? Like maybe it's like some sort of Johnny B. Good kind of, you know, something or another. Because that's a lot of work for why? I don't understand.
Maybe not, but you know that just kind of goes with the territory. Yeah, I don't get it. I know some people that play upside down, and I can understand how somebody's brain would want to do that as a left-handed player.
Yeah.
But I mean, my guitarist in Wounds, he's left-handed, and he makes it work out. You know, he just buys the left-handed guitar, and he's like, okay, cool. That guy's awesome because he learned how to do his own setups. I mean, it's like if you own something, figure out how to work on it. I think that's kind of being lost. You got to appreciate what you have and not just hand it over to somebody. And I don't know, you got to know a little bit, but know when to stop requesting silly things. I had a Parker. Oh, I do a lot of Parker work. That one got a integrated MIDI system. Had to route that out. Put in, I think it was a Graphtec Acoustasonic in there. While still maintaining the old controls with full functionality. So removing all of that ribbon cable that's in there, rewiring it with a 12-pin as well as the switched quarter-inch output jack. That was pretty silly. And turned out great. Looked like a Game Boy. They had, you know how you can switch patches with the little button on when you have the MIDI system, the rolling MIDI system? I had to put the Game Boy controls in there too. I mean, it was like 9 buttons and knobs in like this much space.
What did he ultimately want to do? Just throw in a whole bunch of different instrument noises in there, or what was he trying to do?
Pretty much those Parker guys, they want to do everything with their guitar. Like a lot of the time, and that's the kind of customer that it appeals to. I forgot who the guitarist was, but there's I can't remember the name. But there's a signature that comes with a MIDI built in and stuff like that, and it's like a $10,000 Parker. Parker's not even really a company anymore. But they have that one.
I want one of their like 6-ounce guitars or whatever those were.
Dude, those are. They're super cool until you have to like do any fretwork to them or any electronics work. I'm cool with the electronics now, but it took me a little bit to actually just kind of understand where everything was going because everything breaks and those ribbon cables are really brittle. So you got to figure out how to patch things in straight to the PCB in order to bypass the ribbon cables. And then, you modify it accordingly to keep it going since they don't make parts for them and everything's proprietary on it.
Did that company just fold or did they get bought out? I'm not even too sure.
I think they got bought out by Washburn. So that might have been USMC. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, I think they got bought out by the company that owns Washburn, and then they started making the Korean ones. The Korean ones are super cool too, and those are totally serviceable. The Koreans make great instruments as well. WMI cranks out work for a lot of different brands, and they're pretty solid. And they make shakers too. When they're not made in Indonesia, I think they make a lot of the 6-string electric guitars in Indonesia now. But yeah, man, Parkers are crazy. And then there was another Parker that I had to just repin the top on. It was white, and that was absolutely no fun. It had just a little bit of brown in it and a little bit of blue in it, and whatever else I had to throw in to make it work. But the guy screwed in a GK pickup, put in some crazy pink and green pickups in there. And he had some scuffs and some scratches, so I ended up like refinning the majority of the thing. And it's a very curvy guitar, so buffing it is always a pain in the ass. But he got his guitar back, so I hope he's happy and enjoying it.
What is the worst request that you've gotten that you've had to turn away, where you're just like, I can't believe you're asking me to do this. There's no way I can fix this.
Everything can be fixed.
I've seen you do some wizardry. I've seen it happen, so I know it's possible.
Yeah, it's possible. It's when it's not financially reasonable. I would say my Les Paul, the Les Paul that I now have, is probably one of those cases. Guy came in and I quoted him. It was a pretty reasonable quote. There was no paintwork involved, but it was like $400 for it was a Les Paul with a broken headstock. Somebody, like a painter, knocked it down or something, and then filled it with like Gorilla Glue and some schmutz and some caulk or something like that. It was rough. And the guy came in. He's just like, "Well, how much would it cost to fix this?" And I'm like, "Well, it'd be like $400, maybe $500. It depends how long it takes me to clean up all this old glue, because there's no real great way to get in there. You got to go in there with like a dental pick and just like scrape off all the glue. It took me like 4 hours of just scraping before I could actually get back to just the re-gluing part and get some Type-On on there and just wood glue it back together real nice. But yeah, that was more than the guitar was worth at the time. It was a 1994 Les Paul Studio. So it was leveled with him.
Would you say that Les Paul necks are the most common thing that you see coming in the shop?
For headstock breaks, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Les Paul style stuff. It depends on how they do the truss rod access, to be honest. Basically, the reason why they're so weak is because they're made in one part. They're like one-piece necks, old school, ideally quarter sawn. But what they do is it's really thin by the time you get to the nut in the first fret area, and then they hog out with a bullnose router bit, a shitload. I'm talking like at least 50% of the material, right in the nut area, though. To be honest, because the nut for the truss rod, the one-way truss rod, just comes and butts up where the nut would be. So yeah, I guess right behind the nut to right in front of it is a little bit compromised, because you've got the tension from the nut pushing, as well as just the lack of material. Oh my god, they take out so much. So it's just like a big fucking dish in there that's just out. So you sneeze on those things and they break if you get the wrong piece of wood. But you fix it, it won't break. If you fix it right, it won't break in the same area. Wood glue's stronger than wood. But sometimes if it's a really bad break, then you got to do splines, remove as much of the garbage material as you can, the broken up wood, get some fresh wood in there, and then, shape, refinish, color touch up, draw on some grain, make it disappear, make it look like it belongs there.
You're a giant video game head. What's the latest game you've been playing, or were playing, I should say, before your accident? What's the latest thing for you these days?
Well, I was trying to make it through Ghost of Tsushima. I like Dark Souls a lot. So I guess I like the punishment. PlayStation recently put out Remnant from the Ashes out for free, which I've been looking at for a while, but it's basically kind of like a Dark Souls-ish light shooter. And it's just, I like grinding, man. I like my Diablo, I like my Dark Souls, like that sort of stuff. Didn't really think I would ever be an RPG kind of person, but that got changed.
Well, those are a little bit different from your, Final Fantasy or something. You know what I mean? They do have a little bit of a different playing element to it.
Yeah, it's a little bit more action oriented, and I appreciate the, just having to hammer something out. It reminds me of when I was a kid and I would have a hard time playing some of those games. And those games actually were very difficult. I just didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
But like Super Mario, that's not really a cakewalk once you get to the later levels. It's ridiculous. But yeah, it gives me that same sense of satisfaction, like I had to work for the win. And it's not just, I don't know, I like mindless Call of Duty and all of that, where you just shut your brain off for a little bit, but trying's really cool.
When you were younger and you oversaw older musicians in your area, were there any local bands that you looked at fondly?
That I saw? I never really saw much live music as a kid.
Really?
Yeah, it was always just the musicians that I was playing with, or that were teaching me, or people that I knew that played music. I always just looked up to them pretty much the same. I mean, they were always doing something that I couldn't do, or that I wasn't able to do, so they were worthy of respect.
So when did the idea of like bands come into your head? I mean, obviously, you're aware of bands, existence, musical groups, things of this nature, but you've been around music, for forever. And if you weren't going to local shows or seeing those bands, how did you get into that yourself then?
Just being a musician in general, just not really thinking about. I mean, my friends started joining or started forming bands and stuff like that. Like there was a kick-ass like grind band called a Braid that formed when I was in high school, and like they were super awesome. I was trying to just get people together to play music with, and then eventually it's just like, oh yeah, the bands are a thing. So let me just try to do this. This means I can play more music and play and hang out with my friends more, and again, do things that we all like together. So it was more the camaraderie and the friendship of all of it. Like none of like my old best friends, none of them are musicians or anything like that. I kind of wish that they were, but everybody's different. Like my oldest friend is an actor, so we went into the arts, but in different kind of ways.
Yeah, for sure.
But Miles Davis, Bitches Brew.
Why do you say that? That's your childhood?
Yeah, a lot of Bitches Brew. Return to Forever. My dad was pretty plugged in with a couple really choice pieces of music.
Do you think that's where like you really got like your main musical influences from?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, I never knew why I enjoyed it, but it was just I started because I started taking music more seriously when I was playing the trumpet, and Miles Davis was one of the best trumpet players to ever exist. So one day my dad was just like, "Here, check this shit out." It was that sort of weird stuff, and eventually I just guess I forced myself to like it or learned how to like it. I'm like, "Hey, if Pops thinks this is cool, it's got to be cool."
For sure. Well, my dad liked Katie Lang, and Katie Lang's not cool, but I'm glad your dad liked cool music, so that's cool. What is your preferred bass and guitar strings?
Oh, dude. Okay. The Dario for electric guitar. It's a good, solid, very solid basic set. Gets the job done. And then I'm a little pickier with the bass strings, just a little pickier. But brand that never really let me down was DR. Very, very solid. I play high beams. I used to play Black Beauties before that, just because I never could really afford a set of strings. So those ended up lasting forever. Like they were just a little bright when you first put them on, and then they died right away, and they would stay like that for a whole year. And I was like, hey, this works for me.
There you go.
The set I bought was GHS though, and I wasn't really too fond of those. Nickel strings make your fingers a little stinky.
Stinky?
Yeah. Stainless steel, they don't stink. They don't smell after 3 months, 4 months of having them on.
I guess it's better than using gut strings and the stink that would stay on your fingers after that.
I wonder. I never really played gut strings at all, even with classical guitar.
Me neither. Yeah, they were always some hybrid something or another. They weren't. It's like a nylon poly something. I can't remember what the hell they are.
It's nylon and a nickel wrap.
Yeah, there you go. Here's a question for you that I ask for everyone. Most of the people that I've been talking to are in all different types of fields in the industry. But I think it's a question that plagues most people, which is, what does success mean to you?
Being content. It used to be being happy, but that's too broad. Being content with where you're at, being joyful and knowing that you're doing your best or putting a positive impact or just bringing positivity to the world in a way that you can do so successfully. That's what's important. Being able to survive is also important, and that comes to luck of the draw. No matter how hard you work, sometimes you just can't get can't get a break. I was working 2 jobs, 2 minimum wage jobs at one point, and I just could not. And I was going through college, and it was just $300 was a lot of money, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not all about money. Money helps, but it isn't the end all be all. Like, money doesn't bring you happiness. Studies have been done. Once you make over 75 grand a year, the happiness that money actually brings you is not, it's not directly proportional anymore.
Money,
good, man. Be good.
money will buy you a house, but it won't buy you a home. You know.
Correct. And home's where the heart is. So who knows who's filling your home?
For sure. You collect instruments. You alluded to this earlier. I'm going to bug you to send me a picture of your workroom downstairs so people, I know even if it's clean right now, there's still like a pile of just wood chunks and blocks somewhere. But
dude, it's a fucking mess down there.
Other than instruments of all different shapes and size and just pieces of wood, because you're just constantly looking for project pieces, what else do you collect? Is there anything else that you, you know, have the same kind of passion for? Anything else you collect?
Well, definitely tools. Tools, movies. I love my movies, particularly the horror movies. Like more slightly obscure horror movies or B horror movies are always fun. Been trying to get some people to watch, say like dumb shit like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Very nice.
Ironically, it's a Tim Burton movie, and I watched it. I'm like, this is gonna be bad, and I was just like, shit, this is actually pretty good. Like, damn. So I bought it. Shit like that, Chillerama anthologies.
There you go.
But yeah, man, old tools, love them. I love refurbishing them. I love taking something that has more mojo than an entire lifetime of than my entire lifetime that serves somebody well, that'll be able to serve me well for many years. It's just there's something behind it where it's just like, yeah, this might not be the most efficient tool, but this wooden handled screwdriver sure feels nice.
Hell yeah. Being such a fan of some of the most brutal forms of metal that are out there, what do you think about metalcore being the kind of like the main genre for metal for well over a decade now?
I hope it brings people to other more refined tastes in metal. But if not, that's cool too. Just don't be a dick.
I find metalcore to be a lot of the middle ground bands are very hit or miss. Some people do it very well, so well that you're seeing droves of bands being influenced by them. I mean, when you look at metalcore, look at a band like Misery Signals and their influence. It's just interesting to me that it's kind of like stayed at this version for so long and hasn't evolved yet. And I don't know if that's because there hasn't been a band to make enough noise, or if people actually like some of these pop elements that are getting sucked in there, that they're like, this middle ground is okay. I don't know why it stays there, you know what I mean? But it is an interesting mediator, like you say, to kind of like bridge people's gaps into discovering new, bands that are out there, which I guess is a good thing at the end of the day, you know what I mean? It helps the genre and it starts to broaden people's listening palette more than just what they get spoon-fed on the radio, you know?
Yeah. There's a nice mix. It's kind of a shame that it's so stagnant. I do think about that. It is maybe some other reason why I say there's no money in death metal. I mean, obviously there is. There's people doing it for a living, and it's excellent. But as you get more and more specialized in a certain form of death metal, the piece of the pie seems to get a little bit smaller. And sometimes it depends on, I don't know, how soaked with bands like a particular genre might be. I think the pop influences of metalcore definitely help it with its mass appeal. I mean, pop has really, really zeroed in on what's comfortable for the human ear, especially as far as chord progressions are concerned, which is where you find, I don't know, a lot of songs sounding the same.
There's nothing wrong though with I can never say this word. A level of familiarity, and different genres using the circle of fists to come up with chord progressions that we all have become accustomed to in Western music. But what I'm saying more is like these pop elements that are thrown into almost every genre of music almost kill the form of music. I mean, look at country music and what pop elements they threw into there, and it's become really bad. Metal, you have
redefining what country is.
Yeah, but not for the like. Oh, I think a lot of people would be like, not for the better.
I agree with that statement.
Maybe we are of a minority, but we can see that also happening with a lot of other bands. And if we just hone in on metal, for example, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but take a band like Polyphia, who's using like trap beats in their music. Like that's cool. Don't get me wrong, to have like these cross genres, but there's other bands using just like pop tropes in the music where I don't think it's actually like helping too much, like needing a auto-tuned chorus just because you need an auto-tuned chorus because that's what's catchy right now or what is selling in a popular song. I don't know. I could pontificate and talk about this shit for forever. It's just it's weird because metal becomes, it's one of those things that's been prided on not, I don't know, like learning metal's always been good in finding ways to use these tools in fresh new ways. From seeing, look how Pantera was taking that 4-chord progression when they first started to the 4-chord progression that they were doing in later music. You know what I'm saying? Like they're using it in many different ways, but they're evolving while still holding on to something that's, I don't know, maybe traditional to modern music instead of just succumbing to what's popular. I don't know. It's interesting to say the least.
They definitely do have their bag of tricks. As far as Polyphia is concerned, I only started maybe listening to them. I've only listened to them maybe like 4 or 5 times, something like that. I enjoy most of it, but I mean, if you take a step back, you can kind of see it for what it is. I don't claim to know everything, but all those guys went to music school. You can just tell. They all went to music school. They all went to music business school. They're not. They have passion and they have drive, and they're trying to find ways to interject their personal tastes into something that's going to be commercially successful. And in my opinion, they've succeeded because there's some heavy shit. Maybe not necessarily. I mean, it's virtuosic for sure, but there's also the rhythmic complexity of it and the way that they're dancing around each other harmonically seems to be the theme of the band. And that in and of itself is a gimmick. Is them being named Polyphia and exercising Polyphia at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all dancing around each other, playing all sorts of different notes and rhythms and harmonizing with each other, but from a distance. Individually, all of the parts don't necessarily make sense, but as a whole, they are in harmony with each other and they complement each other. And it seems like that is their gimmick, and they just happen to be extremely good musicians, but they totally went to music school. Like you can just tell that they're great musicians and they have paid for an education and found out how to be commercially successful in that realm, while still playing a little bit of metal and the instruments that they love.
Being a bass player, how do you feel about the modern bass tone that seems to be on every metal album these days?
My tone has changed. It hasn't changed so much, but it is so much easier to dial in what I want now. Thank you, Dark Glass. Thank you. Dark Glass and Dingwall, like that. That's everybody's bread and butter right now. For me, all I needed was Dark Glass and EMG pickups. Just give me a really clean pickup. Literally, my rig right now is a Sonic Stomp, a BBE Sonic Stomp, Sonic Maximizer pedal sort of deal. It's got a little bit of compression. It cleans things up a little bit as well. Everybody knows bass and compression, two peas in a pod. So I throw that front of my line, then it goes into my Dark Glass BK7 Ultra pedal. I like the Ultra because I can turn off the drive, which is all that I really need. Just give me dirty and clean, or dirtier and clean. And then that goes into a power amp, and then I got a 410 and a 15. And that is my rig, and it is fucking fire. It's so good. Such a good sound.
What's the latest piece of gear you've picked up?
I haven't since I got that rig set up. As far as, recently I acquired a 8-string bass in a trade.
What kind of bass?
I had a 1964 Gretsch double anniversary that I just didn't feel like fixing, to be honest. The neck was broken off, the heel was broken off in the body. It needs new binding and a refret. But it has all the parts. It's a beautiful guitar, but I'm not a guitar player. So I gave it to Bob, the old man at the shop. He's a fucking wizard with those things, and he'll rebind them all day. And he's going to do a beautiful job on it. But he had a Tobias, a 70s Tobias, 8-string bass that was originally part of a double neck bass that Bob fixed up. He did a refin on it. Basically, it was a double neck. It was a 4-string, 8-string double neck. And the goofball that bought it, he's just like, no. After a while, so it's got to be ungodly heavy when you have the two of those. Double neck basses, just stupid.
Yeah, it's a monstrosity. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a monstrosity, and that 8-string bass by itself is a bear to play, but it's super cool for certain textures. And farting around too. But it was finished in my favorite color, which is like a Fiesta / racing red. And then, yeah.
What pickups and preamp are put in there, though?
Bartolini.
Huh.
Yeah, so it's got some Bartolini guts, and it's just a really cool guitar, or a really cool bass. I think it might be a little too much bass for me, but I don't know, maybe I can find a nice home for it someday. But it's one of those things where I'm like, maybe not, but I do love it. Having some reservations about it personally, but it's a really cool bass.
We both have a mutual hatred for Taylor guitars. I've always chuckled because you would always tell me that I'm one of the biggest fans of Taylor guitars, yet I'm also one of the most open in regards to how bad they are. When did that love-hate relationship happen with you? Like, what was it that you were just like, huh?
When I met the owners.
When you met the owners? Ooh.
But yeah, no, they're crazy. They're a different breed. I mean, they're like Parker people. Parker guitars guys, they're nuts. They're nerds. And Taylor's the same, except like in a weird kind of, I don't know. I almost feel like the Martin people could be that way, but I don't know enough about them. I have a lot of experience with Taylor people, and they are just nutcases.
I think the reason that these people are so crazy, and we've talked about it before, is because, and I think you'll find this with anything, it's like people start to act a certain way when they pay a certain price point for something, and they think that that warrants a certain opinion, but it doesn't. And Taylor owners really do think that they've bought kind of the best thing that is ever made ever, and it's very, very weird. But also from the side of production, like Taylor, and one thing that we've talked about before, like they do have some really cool stuff, from the repair side to the consumer side, just being able to have some pretty cool options, that aren't super gimmicky like some other acoustic companies out there, but still versatile enough that you can really kind of get some bang for your buck. Taylor makes these weird choices that are also not the best choices. Like the bracing choice recently was an interesting one. To just some interesting choices with cosmetics, and putting some weird price points behind some things that I don't really think are necessary. Um, Now, I've been lusting after the Taylor H string for a while, and I'm caught between a rock and a hard place now because they put out another version that has the new bracing, but it's got like a cutaway and it's got all the new bells and whistles, and it's a little bit more affordable. Yeah, right. I don't know if it's better to go with an older Taylor H string, go with this newer one, or just completely avoid them altogether. And I am at a point where I don't really know, and I don't know how to like phrase this question, but like, what do you think? Do you think that like at this point in time, do you think that their guitars are still worth looking into with some of these changes, or do you think it's time to look at some other competitors?
That's a loaded question.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'll try to make it as concise as humanly possible. That's a lot to digest. I'm going to start with marketing. They are expert marketers. And that, along with the price point that they're commanding, because basically marketing is justification for your price point and acquisition of customers. So that being said, they're a massive company. They take fantastic care of their customers. Great care of their customer service is excellent. And that's also what you're paying for. That being said, the appointments and things of that nature, everybody's got to justify their markup. Putting an arm bevel in something that's made by a CNC really isn't necessarily that much effort, and it's not that much extra work, especially when your tops are coming out and you're not doing this by hand. So there's that aspect of it. As far as the new, I think it's V style bracing or A style bracing. What are they calling it now?
The V. It's supposed to be like the traditional style or something to the sort. I can't remember.
So Taylors aren't necessarily overbuilt, but they did start getting overbuilt, and that's going to happen in any large factory because it just helps with QC. It really does. You overbuild a guitar, it's going to sound stiff. The top's not going to vibrate as good. Obviously, things are going to get broken in. You're going to shake all the oxygen out of the top eventually. It's going to dry out, and then it's going to become a little bit more sympathetic to the energy that you're putting into it. As a side tangent, the pre-Civil War Martins were extremely overbuilt, and nowadays they are one of the most sought after, expensive guitars ever. Is a pre-war Martin. I want to say, I don't know, last time I looked, they were about 130,000. Asking price on the market, and that's because it took them that long to open up because they were so overbuilt. The nice part about that is that acoustic guitars, technically the degradation of them is as well as the sweetness of the sound, is almost on a bell curve. So they start off, they're real stiff, top's not really resonating, it starts to open up a bit, which is where that little guitar vibrator thingy, tone right, I want to say?
Yeah, whatever it's called. But that's their gimmick. Yeah, they're supposed to speed up that process of the wood opening or vibration, or blah, 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 whatever.
And it does it in a good way, but you're also killing your guitar. Possibly. Because you're also not getting time in there. So things don't get to degrade as fast. But you get it to that opening up stage. And then at the top of that bell curve, things start sounding. The sweetest top is resonating fantastically, but then deterioration starts to take over. And then it goes right back there until the dang thing falls apart. Who knows how that's going to be? Different builders build on different aspects of that curve, and it depends on how fast you want your gratification to ensue. So the V-class style bracing has not, we haven't had enough time to actually see what it does over time, but I think it's built pretty high up on that bell curve for immediate gratification of the customer. So it sounds better. They sound great. They sound fantastic.
Yeah, but the fear is the shelf life is going to be shorter.
But I feel personally and possibly professionally that the lifespan will be a little bit shorter. And I don't know what that lifespan will be. Because wood is wood.
Even not knowing, you could say 20 plus years, but it's still relevant to this guitar that's been built a certain way. I mean, the guitar, there's a lot of flaws there. So changing things up to add something to add another kind of con to it, I don't know if that's like a good choice. You know what I mean?
I'm wondering what the tension from the strings is going to do over time as far as like sound hole warping and the guitar starting to cave in on itself. Fortunately, since Taylors do have a bolt-on neck and that shim system that they have going on in there, that helps alleviate that issue. But the body might start to warp prematurely. I honestly don't know. I mean, Martin, everybody's been using the Martin X-Ray system for American steel string guitars for a long time, and that's because it works. It's
but there was, but Taylor isn't, if I remember correctly though, Taylor isn't the first person to do this type of bracing though, or something similar to it, right?
Well, Andy Powers has modified it heavily.
But that's the point. Like, we might be able to look at some of those older guitars and say, I mean, even though he has modified it a lot, we might be able to actually get some answers out of those as far as like how they will last over time. Because
it's a possibility, yeah.
Do you know? Forgive my ignorance. I probably should have done more research. But you know, like, what guitars were using those? I don't remember. I know we've spoken about this before, but there were a few different types of guitars that did use a different bracing back in the day, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, classical guitars have gone through all sorts of different bracing patterns.
But there was one specific that was close to this new thing that Andy Powers made, wasn't there? Or is my memory sucks
sure.
that bad?
I would have to look it up, to be honest.
Okay. Then I'll probably cut this.
Lattice bracing, X bracing, modified X bracing. I mean, there's a whole lot of shit, and I forget a bunch of the names.
No, it's cool. I could have swore there was something similar to it, because you bring up a really good point with that, and I'll probably cut this because we both don't know the answer, and I'm not in the vein of making us look like idiots, but it is interesting though, because we haven't had the time to see what will happen, like you said, how the guitar will deteriorate, and you know what I mean? Glue doesn't last forever, you know what I mean? These things are, you know what I mean? Like, they're not built forever, so like there will be that point, like you said, they do die out. So it is interesting to see. And I wonder if we can look at any of those previous ones and just, I mean, if that's an indication. I mean, they changed them for a reason. So to kind of resemble something that was made before is, again, interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, ladder bracing totally like took the cake for a while, and then Martin came out with that X style, and it's just like structural stability and a decent tone. Actually, a very decent tone. It's a little overbuilt, but it still is subject, even while being overbuilt, it's still subject to kind of like folding in on itself over time, especially with improper humidity conditions and whatnot, and temperature conditions. But steel strings, I feel like it wouldn't be a steel string that had that debracing back in the day. But there's also people trying to do all sorts of weird, goofy shit all over the place. So
no, but you're right though. The introduction of the steel string on there with the tension of the bridge and everything else, even if there was bracing somewhere else, this is apples and oranges at that point in time. It's not. It's nowhere near the same. The physics dramatically change. So whatever those modifications. I'm sorry.
Even if it was a steel string, they were using a different material too. Even on the strings have changed. So who knows?
Literally, like, everything has been updated. You know what I mean? So when you say, Powers makes the modifications, maybe that is something good. But again, it's left to this level of ambiguity where it's almost like you don't know. So to spend, $3,000 to $5,000 on a 900 series V brace with a fancy like rose on it or something that you don't really know how it's going to work. It's just kind of like,
give me a Lemon Grove 810 or a 710, or fuck it, give me a Lemon Grove 600 series.
I mean, I've played a few 400 to 600 series when they're just like, because that's where I think they're introducing the real wood. It's like, these are more than fine. You don't need a 900,
like the old ones. Back when they were at the Lemon Grove plant.
I wouldn't know the difference, unfortunately.
Dude, those old Taylors sound awesome.
Yeah, what are they, like 15 grand or something for one?
Oh, I have no idea. I just work on them and play them. The numbers don't mean much. And that's kind of cool too, is because like it could be 15 grand, but I'll look at it the same way as I look at this $500 guitar, and then compare them with my ears and my hands as opposed to other things. And if it's a good guitar, it's a good guitar. But I'm not gonna like the price of the guitar means less to me than it used to. It's just like, yeah, that sounds really good. Or if I come across a Seagull, I'm like, damn, that's $400. Wow. No?
Yeah, you've put enough time into this. You know, the glitz and glam has kind of gone away, and you can appreciate things a little bit from what they are. You know? I know it's been a little bit of time, but I just wanted to say again, congrats on the release of Roman Rings, the Halogen album. What people don't know is when you were wrapping that up was around the same time I was kind of like in the dirt working on Friend. And I know we shared a couple, you know, back and forth stories of our own kind of studio woes and things of that nature. I think the album came out great. I think the artwork looks awesome. I know you waited for a while for that. I think it looks really, really, really nice. The whole album sounds great. How it's mixed, I think it's great. What are you guys doing now? What's your plans now? I know the world is kind of chaotic, but is there anything that you can tell us about what the man's got going on?
We're halfway through another album.
Very cool.
Oh, which is cool. Yeah, we all got some contributions in there. Some stuff's a little more straightforward till I get in there and muddy it up a little bit. But we're doing good. I was gone for a little bit. Just trying to take it easy, stay away from some people, just kind of focus on my grind, for lack of better words, because I do have the two jobs and the two bands. So just trying to make time for myself and writing. I did a lot of that over the last. I mean, since March last year, I did a lot of writing. But yeah, songs are turning out good. We got about 4 or 5 done right now. And then Wounds is just about done writing our next one as well.
That's crazy. Wounds, when that wasn't released too long ago either, wasn't it?
Nope. But we have a label to answer to for that band.
Is there plans right now in the books to play out at all, or is everyone pretty much landlocked like the rest of, you know, like the rest of all of us, basically just waiting to see what's going on and just, you know, surviving?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. We've gotten some offers. We've stopped. We're not taking any offers for shows. We were gonna do something online, and unfortunately, you know, can't really do that anymore. I guess we were gonna try to make it work out, but couldn't find the isolated bass tracks. Those disappeared, so couldn't make it work with just like a 3-piece band. And have them just play imaginary bass while I like work the camera or something like that, because obviously I would still want to contribute in some way. But we had our first full rehearsal. Wounds had our first full rehearsal not too long ago, and that was awesome. And the Roman Ring, I've met with them times already. Got a few of the songs down. We're trading ideas on the regular. We communicate regularly. We're all friends. So no shows. Short answer. No fucking shows.
You guys should do a video right now, even if it's of an old song or something, and you should film while wearing 2 casts and just play with the 2 casts looking like a complete moron. It would be awesome and totally your thing. Like, I wouldn't snub your nose at that. I think that's like a beautiful Easter egg, you know, like behind the scene kind of thing to put in there.
Do a playthrough video, and it's just me just.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, even if it's like a 15-second video for your social media, you got to do something along those lines. You're like, hey, we're working on new music. You show a piano of you just playing, you know, like this or something. You're not a younger cat anymore. And it raises a question, which is a question I ask to a lot of people. Why do you do this? Why do you think you still do this now?
Oh, because that's what I live for. I fix guitars so I can play music. I play music so that I can, be a better person. Be a better person, have an outlet, have something to look forward to, meet people, play shows. I don't know, just performing for people and making them happy. Like, there's people that like to go to shows and watch. I like going to shows and I like seeing great musicians, but nothing makes me happier than being on stage, bringing joy to other people. And that's pretty much the long and short of it. It's that simple.
I know right now this isn't possible, but a big hobby of yours was throwing axes, and I was curious if you were still doing that now or before the accident. Were you still doing that actively?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, not like competitively, because there's no competitions going on. But I mean, I did. What did I do? I helped open up a place in Florida. Kind of gave them a course on how to run the place and do it safely, and what you had to do to be able to show people how to teach axes. And then I have I got a target. I still got 5 axes in my trunk at any given time. It's good shit.
Have you ever gotten pulled
with just a trunk full of axes?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you ever getting pulled over and somebody's like, "Why do you have these 5 axes in your trunk, sir?" And you're like blasting like gore guts on the radio. You're just like, "Oh, no reason."
I keep all the good stuff in the trunk. So I got some throwing knives. I got some axes. When I was crossing the Canadian border, they asked me about that. Do you have any weapons? And I'm just like, nah, not really. I got axes in my trunk. I mean, I'm going to a competition. They're just like, but those are tools, right? I'm like, yeah, that's right. They're tools.
Work tools. Precisely.
And that's all you have to say. But yeah, dude, I got axes, throwing knives. I got 2 skateboards back there and a golf driver. Because I love going to the driving range and hitting shit real hard.
There you go.
Not very good, but it's fun.
Obviously, right now, I think your situation dictates, your availability. But are you taking any build projects in the near future? If your arms are okay, are you doing anything for anybody, or are you just working out of Third Coast and that's pretty much it these days?
No, Third Coast, and then I work for Lion and Healy Harps as well, doing some stuff with them.
As far as what, like restoration work, or?
No, QC work. I'm getting my hands on every single Relish guitar that comes into the U.S. And making them go boom, pretty much. Same thing with their Trinity line, and then there's Paoletti from Italy. It's basically just QC before distribution, making sure that everything is top notch, because if it's on my watch, it's not leaving unless it's good.
Nice. That's awesome, man. I didn't know you were employed there. That's sweet.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's really cool seeing, how handmade harps are made every single day. It's just a joy being in that building.
I bet. That's awesome, dude.
I'm doing some finish work for them soon, but that's on the hush too.
I gotcha. I'm still wrapping my head around how to market, and I don't know how I really want to mold this podcast. My idea is wanting to take some of the ideas I've done in the past, stuff that I do with my career, stuff that my mutual friends do, these relatable parallels, and talk about them. Though I'm still kind of battling how to tackle the solo episodes. I would imagine I'll probably have 1 or 2 out by the time this comes out.
Mm-hmm.
But one giant aspect that I've been asking everybody as a last question, and I'll ask you the same. In my last podcast that I worked with, it was J Street Radio, which even your band was on, which we spent 7+ years trying to help local musicians just get the word out. You know what I mean? Tell people about their music, try to help them with any avenue that we could, give them at that time. And one question that I'm asking people in their field, what do you think would be, at least from your experience, a nugget of advice that you would give somebody who might be going down the same route as you, something that would help them something to keep in mind. Maybe even, something at the light at the end of the tunnel, because everyone's got their own battles, but this one specifically, this industry, is a pretty big battle. It's an interesting battle, and there's a lot of people who slam their head against the wall trying to do this over and over and over. And you're a person who's found a really good niche. You know what I mean? You've been able to find work. You've been able to perform. You go into the craftsman side. It's probably the wrong word to use, but you know what I'm saying. Like, you've found your right niche to be able to do what you're doing. What do you think you could share with somebody who, might be an upcoming bass player? Maybe somebody who's thinking about going to the same type of schooling you did to, get into tech work or get into, a shop like Third Coast,
Mm-hmm. I would say, whatever you do, do it to the best of your ability, or don't bother doing it at all. Do it right or do it twice. Just whatever you do it to the best of your ability. It's the most that you can ask of yourself, right?
Other than sitting around, because you can't use your hands, man, what else have you got going on recently?
Not too much. I'm gearing up to hit the ground running pretty much. I'm gonna be doing some clerical stuff over at Third Coast. I'm still maintaining my department over at Lion and Healy. I did inspect some guitars as hands-free as I possibly could. Preliminary inspections. I did 200 guitars just to make sure that they were even good enough for me to work on. Sit back some, but I'm going to be able to make the other ones work and sound good. They're going to sound, they're excellent guitars. Once you get that fretwork, it's got to go to the customer, not needing fretwork. Everything has to feel good. Everything has to be able to intonate. Everything's got to be gravy. And then I got a big exciting thing on the horizon. It's an expansion of what my department's doing, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to involve finishing and assembly for about 100 guitars, 100 acoustic guitars, fine acoustic guitars, through the end of the year. So I got my work cut out for me.
I think most people who listen to this are not going to know who you are, and how big of a deal that is, what you're talking about. I'm going to put links to everything that you do in the description below, and so people can check out what you do, from your music to what you do for work. But if it's any consolation, or to kind of put a little bit more context into this, I'm a pretty anal guy. I'm not, not to be completely redundant, but I'm not your normal run-of-the-mill tater tot. With that being said, there's a certain level of expectations that I look for, mainly because I've had to deal with so much bullshit. The point is, when I was in Illinois, I bounced around to a bunch of different techs, and I've taken a lot of work to Franco, and I think that his mindset is much different from a lot of other people who work in the area, and I think that his work speaks for itself. And to have these many guitars pass through him speaks to what he does. So if you are a player or you do need work in the area, I would strongly recommend checking out what he does. And this is coming from somebody who's dealt with a bunch of different shops and a bunch of different people. And I don't want to say I was disappointed, but I needed to find somebody who really took passion into what they're doing to a different level, where I knew I was comfortable giving it to somebody who would put that same love and care into it, as you said, you put into your, original Fender. And I don't think, like I said, people who listen to this, I don't think they're going to understand that, because they don't know you that much. But hopefully they get a little bit of insight into your world here, and hopefully they'll come, bring some work to you, which I can only hope for.
Right on. Well, yeah, I hope they at least get something good, even if they don't bring me any guitars. If they do, that's cool too. I'll be happy to see them.
For sure. Well, I don't think I have any more questions, man. I've been talking to you for forever now, so I appreciate the time. Can you think of anything else you want to add, or anything else you want to plug or have me plug?
No, thank you for being around. Thank you for being you. Thank
For
you
sure.
for being my friend.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
appreciate you.
Likewise, my friend. I appreciate you doing this. I think people get a kick out of what you do, even if they may not be fans of certain styles of music, I think they'll get a kick out of what I throw out there, because I wouldn't have just your regular Joe Schmo come on here. So I'm happy that you did. And thank you for the time as always, man. And hopefully we'll touch base and talk some more soon.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Soon, bro.
All right, man. Well, I'll keep you posted. I'll talk to you soon. I'll let you know when I edit all this fun stuff, and I have no idea when it will be, but I'll keep you posted, and I'll talk to you in the near future here.
Right on, dude. Well, I'm gonna go rock a piss. Take her easy.
All right, man. Thank you again. See you later.
Yeah. Thank you. Be good.
Bye.